Finance Committee is set to hold a hearing actually today on the Graham Cassidy bill to overhaul health care. And with us now, a member of that committee, Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington. Senator, we want to talk about health care, but please feel free to jump in and talk about flags, our NFL players, our NBA players. It's a potpourri. You just grab whatever topic you want to talk about and we'll do that.
Axis of evil seemed like too much to say.
So, well, I do think that this is an important discussion. I think the president needs to bone up on the difference between freedom of speech and hate crimes. These are two things that we really need to make sure we understand and understand clearly.
Yeah. I don't think he has the ability to do that.
So let's talk about health care. The future of health care for millions of Americans hangs in the balance, regardless of what happens on this vote coming up. Maybe it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because even Barack Obama says that the Affordable Care Act needs to be revamped. There are some changes that everybody knew was coming down the road, and yet it seems like, you know, we're just sitting around here doing the same thing over and over again. What happens if this bill goes down? Is there a chance that there's a bipartisan plan that Republicans and Democrats can put together that will be around 10 years from now?
Well, the task at hand is affordability. And that is why my colleagues who are just suggesting that you kick people off of health care as their winning solution, which is not about affordability and certainly will drive up the costs for everybody across the board if those people go back into going to the emergency room for care. So we're very willing to sit down with our colleagues and discuss how we put more affordability into the individual market.
Steve.
Senator Steve Rattner, a related health care proposal has come to us from Bernie Sanders, as you know, a single-payer plan. He's got at least 16, a third of the Democratic caucus in the Senate supporting it. Some have questioned whether this is becoming some kind of a litmus test for Democrats, whether they are on the Sanders side of health care or on a more moderate side of health care. Is this proposal helping or hurting the Democratic Party come together behind a cohesive set of ideas in anticipation of the next two elections?
Well, I always, you know, to borrow from your earlier segment on football, I always believe in playing this week's game. And this week's game is making sure that we stop this ill-conceived idea that our colleagues seem, you know, content on continuing to push, even though there are hospitals, physicians, organizations all across America who are saying this will gut our health care. So please stop putting this proposal on the table. So we got to fight that battle first. And as you can see, while we've had some good support just this past Friday, we have to make sure that we execute on this week and continue to win this debate.
Harold.
Senator Cantwell, good morning. Harold Ford, quickly. What are your ideas about how to change or amend or improve the Obamacare Affordable Care Act in the short term as we talk about the games coming up? And are there any of those elements that you believe would fix it that are embodied in this Alexander Murray, the bipartisan piece of legislation that looks to be being worked on by the two of them?
Well, I'm always for something that I call the Costco model, and that is if you buy in bulk, you should get a discount. And New York took the Affordable Care Act and did just that. In fact, they have about 650,000 people on a plan that they are buying for roughly about $500 a year instead of the $1,500 to $2,000 on the exchange. So when you bundle people up, so if you're the individual market and you don't work for a large employer, you should be able to get the same right that those other employers give to their employees by being able to bundle them up. So it's a state option that allows states to do that. So the Alexander Murray discussions are continuing to talk about how we also do reinsurance to make sure that there is affordability in the market for those people who have been the sickest or have pre-existing conditions. And I would just say that I believe that those two can get somewhere. They've proven that in the past, and I think that if we let them do their job instead of continuing to push throwing millions of people off of Medicaid, we will get somewhere.
Mark Halperin.
Senator, I want to ask you about the tech industry that you know a lot about. Should Facebook be trusted to fix its practices regarding interference in American elections, or does the government need to get involved in regulating them?
Well, I'm very concerned about cybersecurity writ large, and I think that we have to get very serious about cybersecurity. We need to give DOE and the rest of the infrastructure issues, the right kind of attention and authority to make sure that we are preparing for what is now a constant hacking of even our critical infrastructure like pipelines or nuclear power plants. And yes, we need to make sure that the American people believe in our election system. So let's see how this moves forward with the information we get from Facebook, and then we can take it from there.
Bob Costa.
Senator, do you believe this Alabama primary runoff on Tuesday could prompt some retirements on the Republican side and change the dynamics in the Senate?
Yes.
That's pretty good.
Who do you think might retire?
Look, I don't know, but I certainly hope that we become a more collaborative body. I can say, yes, do I believe, I always say, yes, I know we're in Washington, D.C., and you want to regulate. I'm from Washington, and we want to innovate. But the next level of innovation comes from actually taking the information and collaborating on it. And if we have 40 people in the House who are just no at every step of the way, or we have a Senate that turns, which is the more deliberative body, into an environment where everybody just shows up and is no, then America can't move forward on the good ideas that are out there. And I guarantee you that is exactly what we need to do to move forward in our country, is to be more collaborative.
All right, Senator Maria Cantwell, thank you so much. The Washington Post, Robert Costa, thank you as well.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.